Hi, Alex.
Hey, Benji.
How are you?
Good. How about you?
Good. So, you are a proud member of the Television Critics Association,
I am.
and so they do. For those that aren't familiar, they do like presentations throughout the year. Usually, one in the spring, one in the summer, or winter, summer, but it's kind of all jumbled up because of COVID, right?
Yeah, two big press tours. They've been virtual since I became part of the TCA, and we're in the beginning of the winter one. Yesterday was the CW, and then today was day one of two for ABC. Although even though it's the primetime network ABC, it's really under Disney branded television. So today included a Hulu show and a conversation about Hulu. And tomorrow is kind of the same. Later on this month, we'll have a presentation day just for Hulu, and there will also be a Disney branded television day, more on the like Disney Plus and Disney Channel side, and then also an FX day
And you got a Disney Plus day on Friday.
and a Disney Plus day on Friday. Sure.
I presume you RSVP'd for it.
I definitely did. So I just can't look too far out.
Yeah, so it is kind of all jumbled up because you had a Hulu show, even though today was technically the ABC day. There's another Hulu day, but it all doesn't matter. It's all Disney, at least during these next 2 days. So we'll be here today and tomorrow, same bat time, same bat YouTube channel, and just going to talk about what they announced across the shows. So there was an executive panel, and then 3 different shows, and then tomorrow there's a couple different shows. So we'll start with sort of the news. Despite it was the ABC day, they announced that The Great has been picked up for season 3. And that's one of the shows you cover for us. So what do you think?
I say huzzah.
Huzzah.
I'm always in the mood for more of The Great.
And that stars Cinderella and the Beast? Okay.
No, Elle Fanning was Aurora in the Maleficent film series. And no, he wasn't the Beast. He was Tolkien.
No, I mean in X-Men First Class?
Oh yes, Beast from X-Men.
Beast,
Thank you. When you say Cinderella and Beast, I think Disney fairy tales and limit it to that box.
Good point. I understand.
Yes, Nicholas Hoult.
I should have said Beast and not the Beast.
Nicholas Hoult was Beast in X-Men First Class movie series.
By the way, if you have any questions about ABC, feel free to put it in the chat. It's too late to ask a question now, but Alex might have picked up the answer along the way.
Yeah.
So yesterday we got the news that Grey's Anatomy has been renewed for like season 47, which makes me feel very old.
19.
19. But today they announced season 6, which also makes me feel very old, of Station 19, because I swear it's only been on for 2 years, which is a spinoff of Grey's Anatomy. So that whole sort of Seattle-based medical situation will be continuing at least for 1 more year.
Yep.
And then we also got word that I might be mispronouncing it, but Joseph, a new comedy show based off of comedian Joe Coy, has been picked up to pilot. Doesn't mean it'll be a series, but they're going to give it a shot. Did you get any more information about this show?
No, the Craig Erwich, the president of Hulu Originals and ABC Entertainment, really didn't expand on it much more than what was announced in the press release, which also was not, it didn't give any new details, I would say, than what the Hollywood Reporter had broken earlier, I think last May is when that story broke. So kind of back then it was just in development. Now it's moving forward with a pilot. It could stall after that, or it could go on to a series, but that's where they are.
And then sort of tangentially, ABC, they announced today that Glenn Weiss, who has been directing these kinds of shows forever, is returning as the director for the Oscars. We don't really know what kind of form the Oscars are going to take, but we did get word a little bit about the show this year.
This was news that it will have a host again. It didn't have a host for, was it 2 years or just 1 year?
No, it's at least, I want to say it's at least 3.
Okay.
Because last year didn't have a host, and there was 2 years after Jimmy Kimmel didn't have a host.
Yeah. And there was talk about Jimmy Kimmel as well in the ABC section of the executive presentation. Somebody asked about, how long Jimmy Kimmel potentially has with ABC. Craig Erwich basically said as long as Jimmy Kimmel is happy at ABC, he has a home there, and really talked about not only the Jimmy Kimmel show, but the strength of his other gigs on ABC, including the host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but he couldn't give any news about an upcoming season of that, and also the live television specials with Norman Lear, which he did use that as one of many pats on the back for the success of the network, just because it was a huge ratings hit again.
Cool. So did Craig say anything else interesting that you want to share?
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting stuff that he shared in his presentation. He has two different words to describe Hulu and ABC, and it really reminded me of that at the Disney parks, how Magic Kingdom is Magic, Epcot's Explore, Animal Kingdom's Discovery. So Hulu is addictive. And one of the upcoming anchors, he said, for that is the Pam and Tommy series. He says that's very addictive. But their goal with the Hulu originals is that you become addicted to them. ABC is community. And so for ABC, they really stress the success of a lot of the live events and conversations that are born out of their shows. Obviously, Blackish, which had a presentation today, is one that has sparked a lot of conversations. And he plugged Abbott Elementary as being a show that has already started some really good conversations around it. It has a 100% Rotten Tomatoes score, which is pretty great. And in combining its network broadcast and its Hulu streams, it currently reaches nearly 9 million total viewers. And the second episode that just aired this week was up 20% over its December premiere. So that's a good sign for Abbott Elementary. If you're a fan of that, things seem to be going well. This was news to me, but I guess ABC's live events, the American Music Awards, outperformed the Super Bowl during its social telecast in terms of social reaction, community engagement. Yeah, not in terms of number of people watching, but in terms of how many people were tweeting or TikToking or whatever you do. Had a lot of engagement. And then he also shared that Dancing with the Stars has done really well this year. And he said in large part in its after air on Hulu, he did talk about how the median age of Hulu viewers is about 25 younger than the average ABC viewer. 25 and years. So 25 years younger, which sounds like a lot. So Hulu skews to a younger audience, and ABC, it sounds like, is a more mature audience. I watch both, so I guess that's what keeps me young. And but anyway, I guess with Dancing with the Stars, it does really well on Hulu with the younger audience after it airs live on ABC. It's kind of interesting that they wouldn't just watch it live on ABC. But
yeah, it's interesting because you think of those competition shows as something you would want to watch live, not to get spoiled, and it's part of the fun. But
it's like watching sports on a DVR.
Yeah.
So. New Year's Rockin' Eve also hit a 4-year high, probably in no small thanks to Omicron canceling a lot of people's plans. But I guess it took in nearly 20 million viewers, and it beat by almost 80% the combined viewership of both NBC and CBS's New Year's coverage. So that is pretty good. On the ABC side, he stressed that broadcast is still the best launch pad for shows to reach a wide audience. There's been a lot of conversation about, should things go more streaming based, or is there a benefit to doing broadcast? In the fall, I think Fox even, one of their shows debuted the, what's the one? It's produced by 20th Television, where it's like a competition, but it's a scripted show. I'm drawing a blank. I'd have to look up what they launched in the fall. But that debuted with 2 episodes early on Fox.com and Hulu before their premiere. And, so there's even some leveraging of streaming platforms to try and build an audience for then a broadcast show. So I thought that was interesting to hear that they still value the wide audience of a linear network to launching those shows. General Hospital. So somebody specifically asked about what Peacock has done with Days of Our Lives, in that there have been several Peacock specials, including like a Christmas special that if you were a Days of Our Lives watcher on NBC Daytime, you had to get Peacock to stream those. So Craig did stress that General Hospital is having a great season in terms of viewers, and that it has for several years. He didn't give any specifics, but he did stress that they would be open to that kind of crossover with like a potential Hulu original General Hospital, not Grey's Anatomy, spinoff. Grey's Anatomy is still the most watched drama. We talked about it being picked up for season 19. The way the question that elicited that answer was asked made it sound like the reporter was maybe wondering, like, will I see this end in my lifetime? So that was interesting. On Hulu, they had quite a few firsts. Their most watched drama, Nine Perfect Strangers, biggest comedy launch, Only Murders in the Building, and then their most watched documentary / unscripted series was both Sasquatch and The D'Amelio Show. And they stressed their strength as curating top quality entertainment and being consistent with it. So not a lot of duds in the Hulu originals category. And he did keep stressing that they are at Hulu, their quality over quantity when it comes to what they greenlight and what they put their brand behind, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's the same kind of thing they say about Disney Plus, right? It's not going to be like, everything. It's just going to be, and you could judge whether it's quality or not, but, there's definitely a more curated thing because, you have this new series you're doing where you list out everything that's debuting in the coming week across all networks and streaming services and whatnot. And there's a lot on Hulu that you just, first of all, sounds like garbage, but also like just doesn't even bubble up to, obviously they have a lot of great shows. They have, things like, Bridgerton and Stranger Things and things that have definitely become culturally relevant, but they throw a lot on the wall to hope it sticks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. And also he talked a little bit about how Hulu measures its success, which I thought was interesting. They're not as big on numbers, but they measure it through cultural impact. And he talked about Only Murders in the Building and how the three lead characters from that were popular Halloween costumes. But also the Metropolitan Museum of Art removed the Sackler name from 7 different wings after the finale of Dopesick launched. So Dopesick had that level of impact on kind of twisting their arm. Someone did ask about season 2 of Only Murders in the Building, and he said they don't have a date yet, but he has read the scripts of the first 7 episodes. So, and the first season I think was 10 episodes, so that means in terms of writing, they're pretty far along. And then somebody asked about the Marvel relationship with Hulu, what they were curious about. We've seen MODOK and Monkey Fist.
Hit Monkey.
Hit Monkey. I haven't watched it yet, but you had those 2 shows premiere this past year on Hulu. With everything that's happened recently surrounding Spider-Man No Way Home, and some of the edgier Netflix shows that might not be a good fit on Disney Plus in the US, at least, where we don't have Star. He was asked about that, and he said it's really up to Marvel what they do and where it goes. But obviously Hulu is open to whatever Marvel wants to do because they're an incredible brand.
Very good.
That was really the gist of everything that was from that executive presentation, which was interesting. I've seen executive presentations before for other networks, but I'd never seen Craig do one. Had not seen Hulu or ABC do one since I joined the TCA. FX does. They don't seem to fear critics because everything's critically acclaimed, but a lot of the other networks are like, no, we're not going to put our head out there for an open Q&A. So that was cool.
Very good. But they did have, after that, some panels on some specific shows. So Laughing Place can now say Vivica A. Fox has retweeted us. But
I didn't know that. That's exciting.
So Blackish, obviously in its final season, I shouldn't say obviously, but it is, they announced some upcoming guests in its final season, including the LA Lakers, Vivica A. Fox, as aforementioned. Anyone else jump out at you?
Daveed Diggs jumps out to me just because I love Hamilton. But no, I mean, it was interesting. They talked a lot about how, you know, when big tentpole shows are ending, oftentimes you get people coming out of the woodwork who are like, oh, can I be a part of it before it's done? You know, it's happened with a lot of shows that are a big success in their final season, and that very much happened here with Blackish. They did say that quite a lot of that was because of both Tracy Ellis Ross and Anthony Anderson's relationships with other people. So Michelle Obama was the guest star in the season premiere, and she's a good friend of Tracy Ellis Ross. And so, you know, Kenya Barris, she tried to credit Kenya Barris with getting all these fantastic guest stars, but he threw it back at her and said, you know, yes, any writer can wish to have Michelle Obama appear on their show, but it takes someone like you who has an in to actually get them to do it. So that was cute.
And anything else they mentioned about the final season? I guess we've got, you know, probably about 10 or so episodes left.
Yeah, what was I would say one of the things that was poignant about it was because they did today's presentation and the season has wrapped. Like on their end for the actors, they're done with it. It's over. But Tracy Ellis Ross talked about how when she was on the show Girlfriends, it got canceled on them, and they didn't know it was going to be canceled. So they really didn't get any closure. They didn't know they were filming their last show. They didn't know they were writing their last story. They didn't get to have any kind of a farewell party. And she said with this, they got all of that. And that was really nice. So she said it was emotional. In fact, they played a sizzle that is out there now, kind of a highlight reel of all of the past show with interviews with them. And when that ended, she was getting teary-eyed about it. But it was sweet. They all have projects that they're working on. So they talked a little bit about that. And what I thought was kind of funny was Anthony Anderson, Tracy Ellis Ross, and Kenya Barris, all three have different animated series in the works. So that was funny. And they didn't seem to know that before this. So they like realized in real time, like, oh, we're all doing an animated show.
Well, as someone I respect once said, animation can do whatever the imagination can dream up.
Was that Walt Disney?
That was Walt Disney. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a kind of
I have heard of him.
So then switching from ABC, we went to Hulu for a show, I guess a sequel series to a show that aired on CBS but came from Fox with a star from Disney Channel with Hilary Duff's How I Met Your Father.
And I wouldn't say it's Hilary Duff's How I Met Your Father, but it is How I Met Your Father.
She's the mother, right?
I mean, she is the main character, the lead role. And yeah, so this was interesting. The creative team behind it stressed it's not a spin-off, it's not a reboot. It is a sequel, an isolated sequel series. Isolated sequel, a good example is Home Alone 4 and 5, which do not feature any of the McAllisters or the same burglars. It's really just a similar story, but with completely different characters. So that's what How I Met Your Father is in comparison to How I Met Your Mother.
But it still takes place in the same
universe. And the director and executive producer Pam Freeman, forgive me if I mispronounced that, but she was involved heavily in How I Met Your Mother. And so she also spoke to the differences of them. She said, you know, tonally, it's a little bit different of a show too. Obviously, there are some comparisons in both the premise and the structure of the show and the narration of it. But she said it's very much a different show. I was never an avid watcher of How I Met Your Mother. So I'm excited for this because it'll in some ways be more of an introduction to How I Met Your Father for me. And yeah, Hilary Duff is the main anchor cast member. She was freed up for this because the Lizzie McGuire reboot for Disney Plus didn't end up moving forward. And one of the things I thought was interesting that was mentioned in this was, I guess Disney was desperate to be behind whatever her next TV project was going to be. She was on Younger, that was Viacom, Paramount. I think it was on TV Land in the end, but started on MTV or something like that. And in the last season, I think like episodes premiered and streaming on Paramount Plus before they went to air. So they really wanted Hilary Duff's next show. And How I Met Your Father had been in development. The showrunners, Isaac Apteker and Elizabeth Berger, who did the very successful This Is Us, which is wrapping this season on NBC, but is a 20th television show. They had been working on How I Met Your Father before This Is Up got picked up. So this kind of sat on the shelf for a little while. And then the combination of being at 20th television, Disney wanting to do something with Hilary Duff, they sent her the script and she fell in love with it and loved the character. And they really built it up around her. Her fellow castmates, who are all around her age, all talked about being a little bit starstruck in the beginning and how, they met all wearing masks at their first table reading, but, they knew who she was. They had watched her on Lizzie McGuire and Agent Cody Banks and, everything that she did as a teen, and her music career, coming clean.
This Christmas down Santa Claus Lane.
Santa Claus Lane. Yep, she's had some bops. So yeah, they talked a lot about that. They showed a clip reel. I think it's the same trailer that's out right now. Seems like there's a lot of opportunities for some fun guest stars through the people that she dates. And then it is also very contemporary. Like they reference Tinder in the show, and the way that people are meeting their spouses now versus when How I Met Your Mother came out. I think it was still people going to bars and stuff, getting set up on blind dates.
Yeah, I don't know how I watched the show on and off, so I don't know how they ended up meeting. But it's the review embargo for this is Thursday, so Bill actually has his review in. Have not read it, but he's excited for it. So you can check out that review Thursday morning.
Nice.
And then heading back to America's Broadcasting Company, we got the Honorable Judge Steve Harvey presiding.
Yes.
I'm going to go get a prop and I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Judge Steve Harvey was in session for the TCA press day for ABC. He was joined by Misha Mizuno, the showrunner and executive producer. And the origin behind this show, there's the gift that was sent. It's a chocolate gavel.
Here she makes it if you ever want to plug them. But
who is it?
It's made by Gale's Chocolates in
Arizona.
Cottonwood, Arizona.
So Gale's Chocolates is where you can get your very own chocolate gavel. They at least have the mold to make more of them. And so what I thought was interesting about the show was that it was Steve Harvey's idea. ABC had pitched him a scripted show, and he said, "Nuh-uh, I don't want to do a scripted show." And then they said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he thought, "I would like to be like a judge, like a Judge Judy." And the fact that he's not actually a judge didn't stop anyone. So Maisha Mizuno, who's the showrunner and executive producer, is friends with Judge Judy, worked on Judge Judy. So she brings her Judge Judy experience to the table. That's the TV judge that I can, name and have a frame of reference point for.
Does Judge Joe Wapner mean anything to you, or are you too young?
I'm too young, or just didn't watch. What is that?
The People's Court?
Oh, no, I do not know. I know of the People's Court, but no, I don't know this. No. So yeah, it was interesting. During the talk about Judge Steve Harvey, one of the things that I thought was interesting was somebody asked if he would be interested in going back out and doing stand-up comedy. And he basically said, as a comedian with a network behind him, it's too risky right now. He said, you will find any comedian that has, a TV network or anything like that behind them right now, they're not going to go do edgy comedy at the moment because they will inevitably get canceled. And he cited Dave Chappelle as like the one exception to the rule, and it's because he's not beholden to any network or any company right now. He's basically a free agent, and if people don't want to work with him, they don't want to work with him. So that was a little interesting coming out of Steve Harvey. Beyond that, this particular panel, I mean, obviously the show is very fun, but people were asking like who was the weirdest person to come on there. You know, it got a little weird. It veered off towards let's laugh at people, and I don't like that so much. I mean, obviously you watch Steve Harvey and Judge Steve Harvey. There are people who are going to come on this show because they're weird, and that's part of the draw. But you know, the panel started to have fun at other people's expense, and that's where I was kind of disenchanted by it. But it was the end of the day.
If you want more on Steve Harvey's comments about stand-up, Rebecca's pointing out that Deadline.com has an article about it. Obviously, that's sort of been an ongoing discussion. No judgment, but in the comedy world for a while. But if you want more about what he said, you can check that out. Or if you just want to laugh, you could watch Judge Steve Harvey tonight on ABC.
Yeah, it is Tuesday.
So you got more tomorrow.
Yes.
A couple more shows. We'll be back here tomorrow at 6 again to discuss what we've learned about those shows. You can stay tuned tomorrow to our social media maybe and find out what they are as we cover them. But we'll give you a full recap of all of ABC's TCA presentations tomorrow, and then we'll be back Friday for Disney Plus a little bit earlier. But we'll learn about what they're talking about. If there's a lot of exciting things coming to Disney Plus, so we'll find out what we get to learn about.
Sounds good.
So thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget tomorrow, Marvel time, 1:00, and we'll see you all then. Bye, everybody.